Hello and welcome everyone. This week's episode of Numerology Quick Takes, we're going to be looking at the week of January 27th. And this week we're going to be working with the vibration of the 5. So this brings in tremendously fast-paced, quick energy that's big. And it can bring about a tremendous amount of change and transformation. So I just want to kind of highlight a few things just to be aware of so that if these energies present to you in some way, you'll know how to best work with them. Anytime we work with 5 energy, it really aims to shake up where we're either stagnant, where things have become too routine, too mundane, too rigid, whether that's in our belief systems, our thought patterns, our actions, our day-to-day life. This energy can come in and really spice things up a bit, really shake things out. And it's not just to create chaos in a situation. It's to help us to see a more progressive, better way of doing something, right? Because the purpose of this journey in life is not to get stuck and stay and remain stagnant, right? There's certainly going to be times where we feel stuck when things aren't moving as quickly as we want them to, or we're just not seeing the instant gratification that we all have learned to love. But there's other times when we sort of sabotage ourselves and keep ourselves stuck. We impose ourselves, or we create these self-imposed prisons that become quite rigid and quite a barrier. And the 5 energy really comes in to show us where that's happening. And not only to show us where that's happening, but to keep putting it in front of us to not only recognize it, but then to take the appropriate action to create the change that will bring us different results. So you could see this show up in any area of life where, again, your thought patterns, your actions, your belief systems, anything in life, your relationships, your career, has you in some kind of a holding pattern that you might not even recognize or see. But the 5 will keep showing it to you, keep bringing it in. And usually it's quite abrupt. It's usually like a lightning bolt. It's like this lightning bolt of awareness. And the purpose of that, again, is to show us where it is that we're tripping ourselves up. And then once we have that awareness, we have to sort of start that journey of doing something with that awareness, of making the change, of taking different actions or making different decisions so that we can create different results. And that process is usually quite uncomfortable. Like, it usually challenges us in a lot of ways to do that. But it kind of goes with the old saying that once you know something, you can't unknow it. Like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And so we can fight it as much as we want to. But the beauty of the 5 energy says it's time to evolve in this area. And we can fight that evolution as much as we want to. We can fight that change as much as we want to. But all it does is create more uncomfortableness, more extreme challenges until we stand up, face it, find our way through it. And in that process, we are creating some kind of greater change within our own lives. And we are then going to get different results and a different experience. And again, I want to emphasize this change can certainly come in areas where we're holding ourselves back or we're tripping ourselves up, but that we don't see it. We don't recognize it. It's almost like, we have to keep being confronted with whatever this is until we get it, till the light bulb goes off, till we get the awareness. And then once we have that, then it's going to be even harder to go back to that, right? Or to stay in that situation. So again, it can come up in any area that it needs to. If you're in a relationship that is, toxic or non-reciprocal or gosh, you just name it. There's not an equal exchange of energy. There's no growth. There's no evolution. You're standing in each other's way of that evolution, of that growth, of that progressiveness. Then this energy will come in to wake you up to that, to see that. And then again, once you see that, it's going to be really difficult, and it's going to continue to get even more difficult to remain in that situation because you know that you deserve better. And so does the other person, right? And so this energy, through its sort of chaos and disruption, it's a very disruptive energy. It can help us to figure out where it is that we have halted the evolutionary process within our own lives, right? Where we've halted the growth, where we've halted, our moving towards our greater potential. So it really is beautiful in that way. But it also can be really uncomfortable because anytime there's change, we humans usually fight that. We usually don't want the change. Even if what we're being asked to change is a situation that sucks, that we don't like, right? That we really just don't enjoy, but it's the known, and we would prefer usually to stay in the known because we have our routine, we know what we're doing. It's the unknown that terrifies us, and change always brings some level of uncertainty, of unknown. And what we forget is that life is about change and evolution and growth. We're constantly in evolution. We're constantly in change. Sometimes we don't recognize it. But what's beautiful about that is our adaptability, our ability to move with the energy and to, go through the change that we constantly have to go through. We constantly are moving through changes, but sometimes they're more subtle. But what we forget is that we're constantly moving through these changes, and we're constantly having to adapt, and we're constantly having to figure it out as we go. So we're constantly being faced with the unknown, and we're figuring it out as we go. And that's part of life. It's usually these bigger changes and transformations that we're, when we're confronted with it, that scare us, that we feel like we're not capable of figuring it out as we go. We're not capable of making things work once we are faced with that unknown. But we certainly are. And we've been doing it from the moment we've been born. And so it really is a beautiful energy to remind us of what we're capable of what we're worthy of, and, to remind us of what we actually want in this journey. And that usually changes over time. As we evolve, so do our desires, so do, what it is that we want for our lives. So does our wisdom and how we show up in the world, all of the things. And so the 5 just reminds us that change is absolutely necessary for that growth and evolution. And humans are not meant to, again, stay stationary or stagnant. So the change is inevitable. And during this week, again, wherever it is that there needs to be some kind of greater awakening, some kind of greater change, not only individually, but on a global scale, we're likely going to see that. Does it mean that change is going to come in and just transform everything in that moment or this week? No. This week will likely bring the aha moment, the lightning bolt of awareness. And then it's through our choices and the decisions that we make that we create the change, that we start to see the change. Recognizing that there will likely be opposition, there will likely be pushback, there will likely be, people who want to sort of dismantle whatever it is that we're looking to change or create, and create fear in that process. Because again, humans don't like change, but it's inevitable. And the 5 reminds us of that. So pay attention to, and I don't even have to say pay attention to it. I mean, when the 5 energy comes in, it's non-negotiable. It is, we have to see it. It's what we choose to do with it that makes the difference, always. But this is an interesting energy for if you don't like your experience, you could get some clarity on how to make those adjustments in order to take different action to get different results and change that experience. So it's really powerful in that way. The 5 is about freedom. It's about breaking free from what binds us. It's about freedom of self-expression, of true authenticity and uniqueness, and sharing that, right? Being free of the constructs and the molds that are constantly being pushed in our faces to conform to. This energy says, no. Break free from it. So it's really an unconventional type of energy. It's more progressive. It can force us to think differently, to approach things differently, to think outside the box, to be forced outside the box, meaning like, outside of our comfort zone, outside of the bubble, to gain different perspectives, to open our minds in some way, to think differently, or to approach things differently. But it's the unmeasured genius. So it's pushing us towards our greater potential. And the only way to achieve that greater potential is through the change, is through first that awakening or that awareness, and then making a conscious decision to move in that direction towards the new goal or the new reality that we want to move towards. But a lot of new perspectives can come in here. Our job is to not fight it, to not try to stay stuck in something that's not working. Now, if something's working and you're seeing great results and it's, you're aligned with it feels good, all of the things, you're seeing great results from it, this energy is likely not going to touch it because it's working, it's evolving, it's growing, you're seeing the results. It's more for those areas where you're stuck. You're in that quicksand and you're stuck. And so it can bring in the shifting sands. It can bring in the energy of it might be hard to get your footing at first, right? It might bring that chaos. It might bring that disruption to whatever area this is. And that is the uncomfortable part. That's where we can feel like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. The reality is the sky is not falling. It is waking us up to, the events are waking us up to something bigger. It's what we do with that awareness that will make the difference. But just know that there might be things that occur this week where it feels like the rug's being shifted out from underneath you or just pulled directly from underneath you. And it can feel like it's really difficult to get your footing. It can feel like it's going to be, catastrophic and just really difficult to recover from whatever this is. And I'm not trying to like fear monger or bring in like this, like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. I'm just saying sometimes when we move through 5 cycles, especially shorter 5 cycles, because it's kind of like it needs to come in, do its work and get out type thing. It can feel more abrupt. It can feel more intense. But again, remember, wherever the shifting sands come in this week, there needs to be some kind of evolution, some kind of change, some kind of unconventional, progressive pursuit in order to level up, to get to the higher octave of whatever it is that we're dealing with. Now, on the flip side of this, well, not even the flip side, there is this beauty to the 5, right? Like I'm painting this picture of like, oh my gosh, it's all chaos and just turmoil and change and oh my goodness, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. It can absolutely come in during this cycle as pushing us to experience life with all of our senses, to really get out there and live and not let fear hold us back from that. So experience the finer things in life, do the things that bring you joy, do the things that you've always wanted to do, try new things, be the explorer, be curious. This is such a beautiful week for being curious. And it's through that curiosity that you will likely stumble over things that really light you up, that excite you. New opportunities could come in this week that, again, light you up and excite you and ignite that passion from within. So this is a beautiful energy for that. This is a time to, again, be curious. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know how it's going to turn out. You just have to take one step and then another to explore, to be curious, and to see what unfolds for you. This is definitely not a beautiful week for making big decisions and committing to things and trying to build something really solid. Now, if life takes you there, then of course, go for it because you likely have other energies you're working with. You certainly do. We all do. But this is more of a week for that exploration, for that sitting with that new clarity that comes in, for being curious and then sitting with what that curiosity brings forth. Because it's from that space that we'll be able to build something more solid. And that will likely come in the weeks that follow. But this is definitely a time where if you have an opportunity to travel, to be social, to go out and play, to, take some time to unplug and just be free Just free your mind, free your spirit, free your energy, and see what comes in. So it's an opportunity to not only break free from what, is holding us back and binding us, but to break free from the expectations that we put on ourselves and the world puts on us, and to try new things. So taking a risk is a great thing to do. And again, you might be curious, you might go down the rabbit hole, you might take some risks, and you might not like what you find. Okay, so leave it. On to the next thing. Move to the next thing. Be curious in through another door and see where it leads, see where it takes you. This is a beautiful time for, romance and romanticizing life and letting life romance you and romancing yourself if you don't have a partner to do it for you, right? This is truly about sinking into the beauty of life. Again, experiencing it with all of your senses. Don't miss out on life because you're too focused on or worried about the future or concerned about the past. What is happening right now? And where are you sort of neglecting yourself? Where are you depriving yourself of life, of truly living, of sinking into your own authenticity and letting the world experience that? This is such a beautiful energy for exactly that. Be careful about going sort of to the extreme, right? Anytime we have extremes of anything, then, extreme results are going to follow, and we probably won't like the results of that. So be careful about, falling back into maybe addictive tendencies or, trying to numb or being too overly excessive in whatever it is that you're throwing yourself into. Moderation is going to be key with this 5 energy. Take your time, be adaptable, go with the flow, see what life presents. There is no need to rush. This is a very fast moving energy, so it will feel like you're being rushed, but you can take your time. You control the pace. Be careful about letting fear take over and dictate your actions, because that fear is going to create restriction. And it's going to force you to stop living life. It's going to force you to stop, experiencing life. So be careful about letting fear dictate who you are, what you do, how you show up in the world. Face the fears, right? Sometimes it's irrational fear. Sometimes it's actual rational fear that we need to face, and we need to, come up with a solution and come up with some kind of plan and all of the things. But if we let fear dictate our lives, then it's going to be a very restricted life. And that change is going to be really uncomfortable, and it's going to be really challenging every step of the way. So be really careful about, where it is that you're letting fear restrict your movement forward. The other thing I would say is just remember, change usually doesn't happen overnight. It's usually a progressive journey. Meaning, usually we get the insight or the aha moment or the clarity, the awareness, that awakening. That's the first step. Then we have to start to move in that direction through our choices, our actions, our decisions, and that takes time. So it's not necessarily, even though it can feel sometimes like the rug is pulled out and the change occurs, but that event, that catalyst, is not necessarily the change. That is the catalyst. So this week could bring in the catalyst for that change. Then it's up to us what decisions we make, what choices we make, what actions we take that will determine what that change looks like and will determine the experience that we have through that process. But just remember, again, change is progressive. It takes time. So is evolution. So we're not going to see the results of that change immediately. And so it can feel uncomfortable for a while. But it always comes back to our choices and our decisions in determining what the outcome of that change will ultimately look like. So you stand at the helm of that ship, of your own ship. You get to decide. But don't fight it, is what I would say. For the easiest ride, don't fight it. See where it takes you, and know that you can build from wherever it is that you land once this energy sort of subsides. Just make sure that what you're building is what you want to be building, that it makes sense and it's heart-led. So, all right, I hope it's a wonderful week. I'm right there with you. And I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.